You're listening to the Xsgaming podcast Halloween special with your host Xander Skullion and James Gruesome.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to the Halloween special of Xsgaming podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Xander Skullion, and joined with me is my crimson-bearded co-host, Mr. James Gruesome. What's up, James?
Hello, everyone. Greetings and salutations. I hope you are doing well in what is now fall and creeping in upon to Halloween, and I hope you are feeling spooky and creepy, but not too creepy because sometimes like that could be kind of bad, but I hope you all are in the Halloween spirit, and if not, maybe this show will help you get into it. And also, we are joined once again, numerous times before, and this is probably at least at least the fourth Halloween episode because it's become a tradition for him to be on here. But our very dear friend, the lead singer of one of the best horror rock bands out there, the Casket Creatures, and most importantly nowadays, he is an engaged man, which I think is very awesome to the lovely and badass Nicole. So we'd like to welcome once again to the show, Mr. Ryan Cadaver.
Man, I am always glad to be on the show and talk to you guys. And damn, that was a hell of an intro. Thank you.
Hell yeah, it was. It was. I was like, it was funny because before the show started, I was like thinking about, okay, like, all right, if I introduce Ryan, what am I going to say? Dude, James, you knocked it out of the park with that. That was good. And yes, Ryan, congratulations. The proposal video was pretty damn epic, I have to say.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I've been planning on it for a while, but it was a sold out crowd in Savannah, and it was like a giant party full of vampires. I was like, this is the best place in the world to do a proposal. So it worked out great. Thankfully, she said yes.
Oh yeah,
the backup plan was we were just gonna kick her off the stage. No, I'm just kidding.
I like how your guitarist Derek started playing the wedding theme at the end of the video.
Oh man, that was awesome! Like I didn't even expect that. In fact, funny story, they actually got me. Like I knew that obviously everyone in the band knew that I was doing the engagement. She didn't know, but everyone in the band knew. But I surprised her on stage with it, and I was like, haha, I got you so good. But then when I got back to the band hotel, we're like, oh, man, we got to sleep in a hotel with, 5 other dudes. And they were like, nope, we got you all a private suite.
Ooh.
We got champagne, everything. It was awesome. So, I got a surprise that night, too. So it was pretty cool. Pretty good group of guys there.
That is awesome. That's the epitome of bands. I always tell people that bands are like family and relationships, and that's like the epitome of it right there. Like sometimes it's not always good, but when it's good, it's fucking awesome.
Oh, dude, yeah, that's exactly how our band is. We would kill for each other, and then there's times that we want to kill each other. It goes back and forth, but we've been doing it for a while now. James knows; he's been with us from the beginning. We've been friends, but man, it's been a long ride, and I don't see any signs of slowing down, man. Casket Creatures are going to keep doing our thing.
Yeah, what's going on with the band right now to let the listeners know? I know you guys have a show tomorrow, and this is recorded on the 24th, by the way, guys. So tomorrow, the 25th, you have a show.
Yeah, we have a show with our good friends Captain and Maybell. They've been seen on America's Got Talent and various other things. They're a sideshow couple that do insanely grotesque but awesome stuff, like swallow 13 swords at a time and spin them around inside of them. And there's actually a video that I recently posted of him doing that on stage while we're playing. So we're doing a big show with them at the Claremont Lounge, which is a really infamous spot in Atlanta. If you've ever been to Atlanta, you've probably heard of the Claremont Lounge. It's basically it was an old condemned hotel, and Gigi Allen lived there for a while, and basically we're playing in the basement of it, and it's now it's been a strip club since the 70s.
I bet there's some high quality ladies of that establishment.
Oh, the highest of qualities.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, getting into some of the gaming news, there is something I was wanting to talk about, and this is pretty recently. Pull up the story on here. Intellivision is back with the Amico. Have you heard about this yet, James?
I have heard a little bit about it just a bit ago. It sounded kind of interesting. Not really sure if that's something, for me. I kind of dig the idea of what they're, kind of aiming for, more like a family system, like no, pretty much all like just E-rated games, some kind of revamps of some old titles. I don't know if they're, trying to get in a new market along with maybe some, an older one that knows that name. I know, me and you, and I'm, a little bit about 10 years older than you or so. And even I didn't really have one of those. I did get a couple of those plug and plays by the, the lovely @Games, who actually did do some decent, things despite some of the bad products they've put out. But I actually really enjoyed the Intellivision and Coleco little plug and plays. I snagged them up around like Christmas time for like $20. I think I even sent a couple out. I think I sent one to you.
Yeah, you sent me
that might have been the Coleco.
Yeah, you sent me the Coleco one. I still have it. Yeah.
Yeah, they were still very similar systems, and I didn't know a whole lot about them. And it was they were pretty good. And it's still just I still enjoy seeing things like this, as long as they end up not being a scam or just a really bad product like some of the other past systems that had old brand names with them. So it's still the idea, I think, is kind of neat. It's just curious to watch. Not really something I'm necessarily in the market for, but who knows?
Yeah, it's interesting. They showed it off at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo this past weekend. And it looks like it's going to be around the 150, 180 price range. The release date's scheduled for October 10th, 2020. It's going to be all digital. The games that you purchase are going to be anywhere from $2.99 to $7.99. It comes with built-in 20 games of like Intellivision, some Atari stuff. And what's really interesting about this is the Intellivision Amico is named after someone named Tommy Alamico. I think I'm saying his last name right. If I'm not, YouTube will correct me on this. But Tommy Amalico, I'm totally butchering his name, but he is the composer.
Maybe he's just an amigo. Maybe he's a good friend.
Yeah, he does have some big significance because he is a composer for Earthworm Jim. He did the music for the highly underrated Tomb Raider on the Sega CD. So he's like a well-known composer that's been in the industry for a while, but he's like kind of like the guy behind the whole thing. So, I mean, that's interesting. What do you think about that, Ryan?
I think it sounds awesome. I'm fascinated by new hardware just because we see less and less of it, and I really enjoy seeing it. Like James said, I don't know if it's necessarily for me, but I think it's really cool, and maybe some kids can get it, like some families, and play some classics together. And a lot of this stuff, like the NES Classic and stuff, it's like I see the appeal of it. It's like really easy for families to just pick it up and be like, "Hey, I remember this game," and then just play it with people. So I think it's cool and interesting. I'm excited to see it.
I know it is too supposed to have like exclusive games, attached to it, at least for the time being, and they're going to be mainly focused on like 2D. I don't know if that's just to keep in with the price range and everything like that, and kind of grab some more retro enthusiasts, because I think if you're thinking of, the Intellivision, you're not going to want to see some, big pumped up super graphic stuff. And as we see on a lot of the, eShops and, PSNs and such, that there's a whole ton of retro inspired games that are, actually really good. A lot are really fun and really, some of the crappy graphic games, as I call them, a lot of those, but they are actually a blast to play. So, if they get some exclusive ones, it's one, like I said, this seems like a project that, of course, a lot of ones in the past, too, did seem like they were going good. So it's just one to, like, kind of watch, I think, keep an eye on. So many kids have games already, on their phones and tablets. But I'm like Ryan. I like to see, still new hardware. It's kind of like with, like, wrestling, you get to see whether it's, like, a new wrestling company, even though there's still just like, one big one or a couple big systems. I like seeing this time, for game, having that old name attached does, it brings something else to the table. It's not just coming in, with a completely blank slate. You have that name with it, and at least some titles and games that people know. So it's a curious thing, and I'm definitely keeping an eye on it.
If they come out with some new IPs, then I might actually check it out. Like brand new ideas and games, like that would be worth picking up.
Yeah, I agree. And my main thing is I just hope it's not a scam, because we've had so many of these like companies and people that would buy out these, brands like, may I mention the Coleco Chameleon,
Of course, I've referenced it a couple times without saying the name itself, So.
Yeah, and then you have, stuff like the Atari. That whole fiasco that's going on with that is turning into a nightmare within itself.
Oh yeah, that new Atari system, man, I forgot about that.
Yeah. I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because the people who haven't forgot about it, if they funded it, they're definitely reaping their funds right now, because the company's become a straight mess. They have no idea what they're doing. But I mean, like that's the only thing is like nostalgia is so big. Like nostalgia is such a huge marketing thing. I mean, that's why we have, the NES Classic, SNES Classic, the PlayStation Mini that's coming out, and the rumored soon to be N64 that's going to be coming out. We know that's coming out. You got the little Neo Geo arcade cabinets, the 3/4 scale arcade cabinets from Arcade 1-Up. I mean, we just have so much that's coming out. And
oh yeah, those little arcade cabs, because we've seen a few people, like I know Sean RGT got one. I know you have one like pre-ordered or on layaway or something, don't you?
Yeah. But a buddy of mine, she's helping me. My friend Amanda, she's actually helping me get one for my birthday. I'm getting a Street Fighter one. And they do have them in Walmart. I went in Walmart the other day, and they had the Rampage one up, and no pun intended, one up. They had the Rampage one, and it was, it's pretty small. I mean, it's not that big. They do make a riser for it, so it can be like a full scale. But I will say, like the Rampage one, I don't see where 3 adults could actually play Rampage, because it would be very cramped. Like you'd be bumping elbows. But it's cool. I've always wanted a Street Fighter 2 cabinet. And that's the closest I'll get to one. So.
I think that's a nice, pretty affordable way for option for someone to have one. So many of us have always been fascinated, with just arcades, arcade cab. I'd got from our friend Jared the Bubble Bobble one. I still have in my garage, and that was a little bit bigger. And I mean, it's always even if you don't play it a whole lot. The thing is when you walk in the room or your garage or wherever it may be and you see it still makes you smile. Like even if it's not even turned on, just kind of having something like that in your possession is always like a dream as a kid, So it's really cool. So I like how they've done that. Very affordable. I like the different options. And who knows, maybe they'll have some, I know people, have been like, I think hacking them, and it'll still just be cool to see other things like that. I think it just brings that once again to the table, just the arcade cabs in general. I mean, who knows, like, could that cause, a little bit of a resurgence of, maybe some actual, arcades, or what other things like that, we could see in that form at a fairly affordable price. So it's just good for like gaming in general. It's just awesome to see.
Yeah. Now here, speaking of nostalgia, I thought this would be something good for us to discuss, because Sega is having some exciting talks about Dreamcast games on the Nintendo Switch. Now, if you guys don't follow Sega on Twitter, Sega of America, I would say definitely follow them, because one of the things that Sega of America does a lot is they do surveys on Twitter. They do a poll and they ask fans, like one of the things they asked was, would you want to see a Yakuza Majima spinoff game? And they, of course, everyone was like, "Fuck yes!" But they do stuff like this, and they were like, "Hey, what kind of Dreamcast games would you like to play on the Switch?" And they've been doing stuff like this. Well, the Sega Ages program, which Sega Ages is like this umbrella of Sega games that you can download off of PSN, Xbox One, Switch, 3DS, all that stuff. It's even on mobile, but mostly it's been just Sega Genesis stuff, and we've had some of the Sega Genesis stuff going to Switch, like we have like Sonic the Hedgehog and stuff like that. But they've been talking now that they're working on Dreamcast. They said they're making a huge progress, and they said they will go anywhere from some of it will be emulated or utilizing existing source codes altogether just to bring some of these titles. So I'm going to ask you guys, I'm going to start with you, Ryan, because you're the gentleman of the evening. I want to ask you, if you could have one Dreamcast game on the Nintendo Switch, what would it be?
Oh man, that's a tough one. Not the one with the fish with the weird face.
Oh,
Not
yeah, the
that
Seaman.
Seaman.
I don't know. I mean, I never had a Dreamcast, but like I always played with my friends, and we would mainly play Mortal Kombat and Crazy Taxi. Which I mean, I guess I'll go with Crazy Taxi. I really like Crazy Taxi. It was fun as hell.
That's not a bad answer. I mean, Crazy Taxi's fucking awesome, and who doesn't want to play that on the go? What about you, James?
I'm gonna lean a little bit with just one that I was always mad that was kind of neglected in Yakuza. Was a Virtua Fighter 3, just because I'm a big fan of that one, and I really think not as many people dig that one. I really liked the leveled environments, how you could be like up a little higher, even in a Kage stage, you could like jump up like on his temple and kind of fight on the balcony. And then as a backup, and maybe probably a more realistic one, I would love to see a return of Dynamite Cop.
Ooh, yeah.
Of course, the Die Hard on the Saturn. It's kind of funny, too, how they're skipping Saturn games or going to Dreamcast. That just tells you, like, there's just something that's just hard to work with, I guess.
You know what it is they lost some of the source code to some of these games. Like, that's one of the reasons why Panzer Dragoon Saga is so expensive, because Sega no longer has the source code to that game. Isn't that scary?
Wow. See, that's one good thing when you look at things like emulation of other people, that have these. But Dynamite Cop, like I said, it was a sequel, like Die Hard. We got the Die Hard license in Japan. It wasn't really a Die Hard game. And Dynamite Deca, I think that was the Dynamite Cop. But that was pretty much a sequel to that. And it's just a beat 'em up, but it's so whacked out. You can like beat people with giant fish. It's just over the top. Like when you play it, it just kind of feels like a Sega game. Some games just have that feel where you're like, yeah, this is that company. But a very fun series that has been dormant for many years now. And I know we won't ever get the Die Hard version from the Saturn, just due to licenses, like many games get lost. But just the Dynamite Cop in general would be a really cool one. I think people would love to see it. Even just getting the old one, or even like a new version of it too. So that's my pick.
Yeah, I think I would just have to choose, and I would love it if it had online capability. It would of course be Power Stone, like Power Stone 1 or 2 on the Switch. I think honestly it would give Smash Brothers a run for its money. I love Power Stone. Like it, I played it not too long ago, and it still is just aged so freaking well. It's such a good game. You would like that game a lot, Ryan.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah, it was made by Capcom, and it was like a party fighting game, very similar to Smash Brothers. Like you would.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
You could have like 4-player co-op, not 4-player co-op, but 4-player like combatants, and like there would be like items, and it would just be over the top. Like there was like this airline pilot guy, like pilot dude, that when you got the 3 gems, you turned into this giant robot, and you shot cannons
and it kind of had like an overhead view, so it's kind of like 3D. It's not really like 2D as much as Smash. It kind of gave you a little bit more environment to go with the jumping in different areas. I just remember hitting people with boxes, and there's always items inside. Lots of different characters. Both of them are great, and like Xander said, they still hold up. I know you can get a collection. They had both of them on PSP. It was one of the last ones I remember playing it on. But that's a series that just, whether we get that version from the Dreamcast, that's another one too, I think, that could just continue and have a new game since it's been, dead for so long, and people would really eat that up. There's a lot of just them old, Dreamcast games I think people would love to see in any type of version,
Yeah, I would definitely say that. And speaking of Sega, I think this would be a good segue to talk about before we take our break. Usually we talk about games we've been playing towards the end of the show, but this one, seeing that James is here and Ryan, you've became one with the Yakuza cult, thanks to James.
Oh, God, it's ruining my life.
Dude, James...
There's a new one every week.
Well, James, for years, since we started the podcast, James has always said, I'm waiting. I remember when he was waiting for Yakuza 5, and he was like boycotting Sega, and he was like, I want Yakuza 5, and I'm just like, man, Yakuza sounds cool, but I never played it, And then finally I got started, and it's just like, it becomes this like fungus of awesome. That's a terrible way to explain it, but you just get so immersed in it, and I actually have a PlayStation account on PlayStation 4, and I downloaded the demo to Judge Eyes. Now, Judge Eyes is a game that takes place in the same universe as Yakuza. It takes place in Kamurocho. It's not tied to the Yakuza series, other than the city, for now. That's all we know. It comes out December this year in Japan, and it's coming out in the West in 2019 because Yakuza 6 has sold so well. It's actually sold just as much in the West as it has in Japan, which is the first time in the series history. So the series is really picking up. And Judge Eyes is a crime drama where instead of you playing the Yakuza, you're actually playing as more on the lawful side, the law enforcements, the lawyers. I mean, you're playing as a lawyer, and this is what I've gathered from the trailers and what I could figure out with the demo, because I don't know the look of Japanese, is, you're playing as this lawyer who was, young, ambitious. He won a lot of cases, but somehow he's getting blackmailed, and he has to prove his innocence, and he's diving into a huge conspiracy with the police force. And the game, of course, plays a lot like Yakuza, but there's elements to it that hasn't been in a Yakuza game. One of them is, investigation and interrogation. There was a part where I had to find this guy, and it showed me a rough sketch of the guy. And I was walking through Kamurocho, and I saw these group of people, and I had to push R2 and zoom in and look at them. And if they matched the description, I would follow them. And then when you follow them, it kind of turns into, you guys remember in Yakuza when you chase someone down at how it has that meter and you're running and you got the quick time events?
Yeah.
Well, it's got that, but imagine that with more of a stealth flavor to it, because you're walking behind them, you're just walking, and if they kind of sense hey, someone's following me, the meter starts going up, and you push circle and you hide behind signs. You hide behind buildings. You blend in with crowds, like almost like Assassin's Creed almost. And there's, from what I've seen, some of the trailers, there's actually a lot of gunplay as well, and taking cover, kind of like Gears of War, which is pretty interesting. But the combat, oh my god, the combat is just amazing. Kiryu is kind of stiff sometimes when he fights. Even Majima, with some of his moves, it just kind of felt just a little stiff sometimes, where this just feels so smooth like freaking butter, man. His style is more of a kung fu style. He would grab the person's leg, and they're hopping on one foot, and he throws them over their shoulder. You can run and jump off the walls and kick people in the head. It's just little things like that. Dude, I am so stoked about this game.
Yeah, that definitely sounds cool. A little bit of that, like you said, the Chinese fighting style. It kind of made me think a little bit of Sleeping Dogs, which in its own right I think was a really good game. I know one of the last times I tried to play it, I was on I had no Yakuza. I think it was during that time I was waiting on part 5, and I tried to play Sleeping Dogs, but I was in the Yakuza mindset, and I remember I just didn't really dig it as much. But I like the idea of that. Also being the on the other side of the law, in a sense. Kiryu was kind of a good guy, but he was kind of bad, at least at times. True crime, in the myriad of, GTA style games. I always remember liking that one. I like that idea of, investigating. Makes me think a little bit of like LA Noire.
Yes.
When I first saw that clip, I was like, man, I kind of hope like people don't get burnt out on this style, because we've had a lot of Yakuza games. That's even coming from me being, a huge fan. And the reason, of course, Yakuza 6 did so well is all because of me. But I didn't want people to get burnt out on that style, because we had the Yakuza games, we had Fisted North Star, which is in, kind of the same style. And at least with this, it definitely seems like they're taking a lot of like the fighting aspects and the great city, but adding a little bit more to it, which I think, that sounds like an awesome game. And actually, when you said that we were getting it, I got like, really happy, because I didn't know if that was just going to be a Japan only game. They were waiting to see how it, you just never know when we're going to get certain titles. But that Yakuza team is definitely on a roll. And I think we'll be seeing, lots of stuff from them. So there's no reason at this point they wouldn't get anything green lighted. I think to go ahead and go and get made, just because of, how well it's been going. And it's just, all I can do is sit back and smile, man. Because I just, I knew it for so long, and it's just really cool to see everybody else really digging it. Everybody we know that's played Yakuza has really loved it. So like, that's just awesome.
Yeah. I said, James, I was about to say, Ryan, you've been really loving it.
Dude, yeah, I have completely been obsessed. James sent me a copy of Kiwami, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'll give this a shot. I was completely hooked on the characters and the story, and just, like, the fighting style. Like, how it just got, like, I was like, oh, this is, like, a serious crime drama. And then I'm like, wait, what's happening? I'm like, hitting people with giant signs and, like, all this, just wacky, weird, like, side story stuff. Mm-hmm. And with Colts and all this weird stuff. And I'm like, what is this game? Like, I don't understand it. And then, like, it seems like about halfway through Kiwami, it all clicked. And I was like, I love this. I cannot wait. And like, because it took me a while to, like, really get into it. But then when I got about that halfway point, I was just obsessed. And then after I got done with that, I was like, oh, I have to get Zero, like, right now at this moment. So, like, I went to the store, got Zero right after I beat Kiwami, played through Zero. And then by the time I gotten through Zero, I think 6 came out. So I got 6, and I just finished 6. And now I got to get Kiwami too. And thankfully, I haven't got burned out at all. Like, I'm just, like, invested. Even my fiance, there were moments where she was, like, in tears of how good the story is and how good of a character Kiryu is.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing, is that game has such a powerful story. And I will tell you, Ryan, since you've beaten Zero and Kiwami, when you play Kiwami 2, there is a side campaign with Majima that connects the events of Zero and Kiwami. Like, it connects.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. So I always tell people, and I plan on making a video about this, because, I get a lot of people that ask me now, they're like, hey, what's a good Yakuza game to start with? And I'm like, well, I can't answer that because I'm going to make a video on it. But right now is a great time to, start playing, because we got so many that came out and choose from,
I would even go so far as to, I don't know, Ryan, if you still have your PS3, but just because you do like it so much, and I know I've talked down upon this game before, but the Yakuza Dead Souls, it is possible you might actually, kind of dig it. I throw a lot of blame on that, for us not getting 5 quicker. They tried to cash in on the zombie craze at the time. But if you take it for what it is, and that was the first game you could actually play as Majima, you were given 4 characters, and like I said, it's not Yakuza. That's the thing. It plays like old Resident Evil. Like, you can't even really, you don't have a reticule. You just kind of aim and shoot, but you're in these, kind of blocked off areas killing zombies, and it has a little bit of Yakuza flair. It's one I would tell people to play, that if they love Yakuza, to check it out. But it's one I never tell people to get if they've never really played or gotten into the series, because you kind of have to love the characters, I think, to kind of be a little bit more invested in it. But it's pretty cheap, at least last time. I don't know, with Yakuza, being more popular, the games might have risen in price. But, it's one you might want to check out,
Yeah, I still have my PS3, and I've thought about getting, I think 5. Is it 4 and 5 that are on PS3?
Yeah.
Yeah, 3, 4, and 5. But we're getting redos of 3 and 4 on PS4.
Oh, wow.
5 is still kind of up in the wind, but 5 is actually still my favorite. It just, you get a lot of the playing through like 3, and when you hit 4 is when you get the first multiple character game. When I went through it, and then 5 gives you even more, and you get to play as Haruka, and her whole thing is like rhythm-based dance things. It's like when you fight people, it's a dance contest. So it's lots of rhythm games, and it really kind of breaks up a lot of the other stuff, and it's got all this, fun like J-pop music, and I just absolutely love that game. It has hunting in it. You collect pelts. There's driving. They have the Daytona song in it, and the taxi missions. It's still to date, and I haven't beat 6 yet. I started it and took a little break, as I do sometimes with the series. But 5 is still like the top for me. It just has so much to it that it's still awesome. So hopefully that one gets re-released too, because a lot of people missed it. It's been free at times with PSN, and then other times it's still like regular price. So some people have avoided it. So I'd really, and plus people don't have PS3s lots of times now too. So that's one I really hope, and I think it'll end up on PS4. I'm like 98.7% sure we'll get it.
Yeah, we'll get it. But yeah, what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to take a quick break. We're going to listen to some Casket Creatures, because I mean, you can't have a lead singer of a horror rock band on a Halloween special, which I know it hasn't really been Halloweeny yet, but we're going to be going into the Halloween spirit after the break. And you guys just sit back, listen to some Casket Creatures. This is one of my personal favorites, called Rise the Dead. We'll be right back, guys.
Dead won't die another day, and I know I'll find a way. We can lock the secrets to immortality. We use necromancy to achieve our goals. Some say our black magic makes them lose their souls, 'cause the dead won't die another day, and I know I'll find a way. We unlock the secrets to immortality. Didn't do it by myself. We raise the dead. Whoa. I know I'll burn in hell. We raise the dead. Whoa. I did it my own way. We raise the dead. Whoa. When hell is where we'll stay. We raise the dead. We raise the dead. Didn't do it by myself. We raise the dead. Whoa. I know I'll burn in hell. We raise the dead. Whoa. I did it my own way. We raise the dead. Whoa. When hell is where we'll stay. We raise the dead.
And we are back. Boils and Ghouls. We are back after our break, after listening to some good old Casket Creatures, and yeah, let's get into the Halloween spirit, the Halloweeny spirit, and talk about some games that scared us. Okay, now what I did is I went on the Xsgaming podcast group page, and you guys can join this page on facebook.com/group/Xsgaming podcast. And I asked a couple people, and one of them that I got was from Game Grinder. He says encountering the Half-Life water monster. It was like Ichisora or something like that. It's probably just the lack of visibility from the surface of the water to beneath the water of how fast it will attack, but this thing will surely freak you out. And he posted a picture of it, and it looks like a mixture of Slimer from Ghostbusters with like a tick like sea turtle body. It looks pretty fucked up. And Ryan, you posted the gif of Bill from Clock Tower. Oh my god. We gotta talk about Clock Tower. So
I love Clock Tower so much. I actually wanted to be Scissorman for Halloween because we're doing a Halloween party thing. And I was like, man, I'm really thinking about it. And then I was like, oh, nobody's going to know who it is, blah, blah, blah. And then I ended up going with Sergeant Kabuki, which even less people know about. So I don't know.
Well,
Wow.
let's talk about this for some of the people that are listening that aren't too familiar with Scissorman and Clock Tower. Like, what can you add? Like, how would you introduce listeners to Clock Tower? Like, what's it about?
To me, I mean, it was the first game that I played that was like absolute survival horror because all you can do is survive.
Yeah, it was
terrifying, and it's
Now, did you play it on did you play like the PlayStation version or the Super Nintendo?
I played the first and then went back to the older one. But the PlayStation one was where I like really cut my teeth on it because like I was like, what is this? And it just blew me away. Like that whole first thing in the hospital where like the hospital is completely abandoned. You wake up, people are just dead everywhere, and you're hiding in bathroom stalls from Scissorman. It was like the absolute scariest game I ever played at that moment. Because you're so helpless. Like in Resident Evil, you have, a bazooka with acid rounds. You don't have that shit in Clock Tower. You're just dead.
Yeah.
It's like you think the dogs are scary in Resident Evil. I mean, which they are, but it was always something. And I played Resident Evil first and got Clock Tower after. And it just became a thing with like me and my friends. We'd just, do some weird little motion, talking about Scissorman. And still to this day, we will bring him up. It was just something so creepy about him. And the graphics weren't as good as, even Resident Evil. I mean, they're not that great looking back at them, but it seemed a little bit more basic in Clock Tower. But it's like Ryan said, you were so helpless. All you could really do was hide. And Scissorman would just come out. And it's still just one of the, more frightening moments in games for, I think us that played it back at that time. And you might play it now and think, you might laugh at it. It's like a little silly, but you gotta understand, like back then was different times. Like we had Resident Evil, some like Alone in the Dark were the only like semi survival horror type games, but it really was, like Ryan said, the first real survival horror because you're just hiding and running.
Yeah. Running
and hiding and opening doors that just
Trying to
fall out into nothing like fucking Beetlejuice. It's just great.
Yeah, there were so many things I loved about it, and Scissorman's design is still to me like really, really creepy. But there were so many great elements where they really like would stagger scares, and like it felt random, even though it probably wasn't. Like I didn't play it like over and over again enough to memorize where Scissorman's going to be at all times, but like it really felt very random. And like there was moments where like I remember there was one room in like the last area of the game where you would keep walking by these mannequins and you'd be like, oh, that's weird. There's some mannequins there. Hope there's nothing else here. And then you just keep walking by them. And then eventually you get to where you feel safe. And you're like, well, I'm good here. Like I've been to this room a million times now. Totally good. And then all of a sudden, sure enough, Scissorman jumps out and he's been one of the mannequins. He's like hiding up there like a mannequin. And he jumps down with his scissors. And you're like, oh, God, because it's way scarier because they staggered it out. And it's not just constantly in your face with like monsters. One guy creepily stalking you. It feels like a slasher.
Yeah, and the thing about it is I played the PlayStation version first, and then I went and I found a translated ROM of the Super Nintendo one, the Super Famicom, and the one on Super Famicom was a point and click, and that made it even more scary for me because like it was a point and click adventure where you couldn't just control the chick, like she couldn't just run around. You had to like click on certain things, and then those old school point and click games, like you had to click on the right spot for it to have an action. Like if you clicked on something that you thought was it and the game didn't recognize it, it wouldn't work. So, if you were supposed to go behind a door, you were supposed to do that, but instead you're just like, I want to hide underneath this bed, and you're clicking underneath the bed and it doesn't work, and Scissor Man is just getting closer and closer to you. It was really creepy. And the crazy thing is too, is like he would just come out of fucking nowhere. Like, you'd just be walking down, and he'd, like, come out of the freaking ceiling. He'd just, like, pop down with his big-ass scissors. And then, like, when he would kill you, he did, like, this little Scissor Man dance. Like, it was just, like, so morbid. And it would make me laugh at the same time. I'm like, man, fuck Bill. I can't get over it. Like, that's a series they definitely need to bring back. I mean, imagine
having it come back, I think would be great. It's always one too you debate, like, man, that'd be cool if they had a movie. But then it's like, and Uwe Boll probably would have directed it, and it probably would have been awful. But it's one that would be good to see come back because a lot of people, I think, didn't really care for 3. I never really played that. Ryan, did you play Part 3 on the PS3? I believe.
Man, I really tried to play that one, and it just didn't feel the same. Like I didn't. There was no characters that grabbed me. I don't think there was any Scissor Man, or maybe it was much later. I just wasn't a fan. But here's a fun tip for you guys. If anybody wants to steal my idea, you can go to Spirit Halloween right now and they have these giant scissors that you can buy, like serial killer looking scissors that you can buy. I'm like, oh my God, that'd be perfect for Scissor Man costume. So I want somebody to do that.
Oh yeah, that'd be freaking awesome. And dude, just imagine if they came out with Clock Tower on fucking VR. I think they could do that. If it was like an on rails, like, kind of interactive game, and, you're turning around and you see something out of the corner of your eye with VR, and you're like, what's that? And you just keep doing it, and it just gets closer, and you see like a glisten, and you see these giant scissors. The music starts playing and starts bumping, and he's just coming at you like with his scissors. Oh my God. That'd just be freaking awesome.
That sounds like too scary. I don't know if I can play that one.
All right, so I'm gonna look like an idiot for a second, but do y'all know the movie with Cropsy, The Burning?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was not familiar with that movie until a couple years ago, and I remember seeing a bunch of like horror people at horror conventions wearing these shirts with this guy with this messed up face, and he had these giant scissors, and I was like, oh my God, like, is Clock Tower a thing again? Like, is Clock Tower came back? And I was all excited thinking that there's like Clock Tower merchandise and stuff. But no, it was all like The Burning, which is a very cool movie, and I've seen it since.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, I never really correlated that. Actually, you said that, and it is. I mean, for anybody that hasn't seen it, it's actually the movie that Tom Savini, he passed up Friday the 13th Part 2 to actually do The Burning. So, it's got like killer effects. It's just another killer at camp movie. But I think it does stand on its own. It also has a young Jason Alexander from Seinfeld in there in his little creepy, weird camp shorts. And,
oh, God.
We had a few, along with Sleepaway Camp, Friday the 13th, The Burning. Had a lot of killer camp movies, but I do enjoy them all. And The Burning was the only one that never had, a sequel. It just kind of stood on its own. And people get hacked to death or, cut or scissored to death. That sounds kind of weird. On a raft out in the middle of a pond. They're all guys though, so
Oh man, I haven't seen that movie. I'm gonna have to watch it now. I'm a big Savini fan, so shame on me for not knowing about that. That's crazy.
Yeah, like I said, it's the one he passed up just to do something a little different, and he ended up going back to Friday the 13th. But The Burning, it's actually kind of rumored if it was maybe actually started or written before Friday the 13th. So technically, like, it might be, one of the earlier killers at camp movies.
Try to say that 3 times real fast.
Yeah, that's kind of brutal. Killers at camps.
Oh, speaking of killer camps, have you guys? I did a review of this. It's on the Switch. It's on PS4. Did you guys ever play the Slayaway Camp?
No.
It's a puzzler. You play as the killer, and each level like has a different kind of like homage to slasher movies. And,
I saw your review on this game. It looked awesome.
Yeah, it was very surprising. It was one of those games that I've requested from Digerati, and I'm like, if I get this game, cool. If not, that's cool too. Because I wasn't like going to lose sleep because it was something I was like, I don't know if I'll like this or not. But man, it was actually really good, and it gets so hard. And I did my review, and this guy like commented, and he was like something Batman. His name was something Batman. He was like, "Hey, I'm in the game." So like I look back, and it's this guy with like this top hat and a curly mustache, and he's like in the game, and apparently he's in all these other indie games. I guess he's just like one of these guys that like whenever they have the Kickstarters where like you pay a certain amount and they put you in the game, like he's that guy that always pays that tier, and he's in the game. So he has his. I hate that I cannot remember his channel because he has a YouTube channel which is pretty much him showing off himself in all these indie titles.
That's kind of awesome. I would probably do the same thing.
Yeah, so I mean, it was a cool game. I mean, a matter of fact, Friday the 13th right now is free on PlayStation Plus, and I still have not played it. Like, have you? You played it, James?
Did you see the Friday 13th? Did you see Friday 13th coming out for the Switch?
I did. I saw the thumbnail of it on the eShop. It looked kind of interesting. I didn't watch the trailer, though. It looks like a
Slayaway Camp, but I feel like that's okay because Slayaway Camp kind of ripped off Jason, so it's probably fine.
Yeah. Like I do need to go and actually play Friday the 13th.
It's one of those ones. I got it when it first came out. And, they did add on where you can play like by yourself, but it really is one of those games. I think it's probably better online. Like I would like to play with a group of friends. I don't really like people all that much. Just some. So like I've been on there before and kind of had, not really the best experience. Cause a lot of people were just first learning to play, and it seems like there was somebody who was like, "Oh, I don't want to play with him." And I was just like, fuck y'all, and I don't want to fucking play with y'all. And
you grabbed your soccer ball and went home.
I did, and I just left. And I think I got cut out in the middle of the game too, probably just to be like an extra prick. But no, I think it would be really great playing with people I knew, because it really does require, I think, to get the full experience, a lot of like talking with other people, on the mic, so you can figure things out. But they've added a lot to it. And for a game that kind of started off as a little bit of a mess, I think it ended up, being, a pretty good experience, I think, for a lot of people. So, like I said, it's just better, I think, with friends, but it is better online. Playing by yourself, it's not as, it's like, okay, so like I've still tried that out. And then I know they have that other game. Is it Dead by Daylight? That has a lot of other horror movie icons in it. It seems kind of like a similar game, though I haven't played it.
Yeah, that one, at least in the early stages, just kind of disappointed me because like it seemed like like Friday the 13th has like all the awesome kills, and that's what made it like fun because you just see crazy ways that Jason could kill you. That's pretty much the only reason I played it. But like the other one, Dead by Daylight or whatever, it just seemed like it was like always the same kill. Like they would like attack you and wear you down and then hang you up on a hook, and it was like always the exact same. I'm sure that's changed now, but I was like, it doesn't really interest me. But I think I downloaded it too. I think it was free at one point.
Yeah, the thing with the Friday the 13th to be able to like level up, get points to acquire new kills. And you could get new weapons. It did have a lot of elements like that would make you, want to keep playing to get all the, different type of, brutal kills. So it really does have its place. And I think it just ended up being better, I think, than anybody ever expected.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to go into what scares me about video games. The thing that frightens me about video games, surprisingly, isn't so much horror. It's not playing a survival horror game. It's not playing like some zombie game or something like that. It's like certain elements in games. Like two things that I cannot stand that freak me out in games is one, being chased by something. And that doesn't necessarily mean like Nemesis from Resident Evil 3 or something. I'm talking about like even when you're in one of those like platformers where you constantly have to keep going the same direction and things are coming at you. Like that freaks me out sometimes. But also timers as well. Whenever a game has like a timer sequence, like in Final Fantasy VII or, you know, Resident Evil 2, like right at the end where you had the countdown. And something else that I really couldn't stand was in like Sonic the Hedgehog and like the water levels. If you were in the water for too long, you know, the music would start playing, and if Tails was there, he would always like end up eating your bubble and you would drown. I hated that shit.
You know, that's something you bring up when you mention like such a big part of those moments when something's chasing you in a game, timers, even in movies. A lot of times it actually is the music, you know, the soundtrack, the things that go with it, because there's so much of that adds to it. I think you could watch, you know, Halloween, for instance, with no sound on, and it wouldn't have the effect. I even heard when it first screened originally, you know, back in the 70s, people didn't really like it until it had that John Carpenter score with it. And that's when it really picked up. So sometimes that music hitting you, because when you have a chase moment, and me and you have mentioned before too about those stupid masks in Super Mario Brothers 2, like how damn scary they are. And I know they have, you know, they gotta have some type of, they have a music too that goes with them. And like that's all part of the experience. You know, you get that visual aspect of the dread, but what really brings into full effect is like the music that goes with it. It just hits you.
Yeah, it awakens like another sense, you know, because you got the visual sense in a video game, and then the music adds the audio to it, and this makes it very unsettling. Like that, I mean, Sonic the Hedgehog, the water level, or whenever you are in water, I can't stand it. How it constantly is like beep, beep, and then like the anxiety music starts playing, and you're like trying to get to a little bubble thing, and then by the time you get there, fucking Tails eats it, and you're like, son of a bitch. And then you die, and it's all Tails' fault. Tails is just swimming like, I don't know what just happened.
He's just a turd. It's part of the experience. Think about if you were in a room, you know, and it was dark, like you can still hear. Like, so that, I think that's the kind of thing that, like, you know, music brings to it. Now, if you were like, you know, deaf and blind, that, I don't know, you probably wouldn't know what was going on. But anybody can imagine sitting in a dark room, and it's just like, you always get those sounds, and sound is, you know, it just really brings out like those kind of scary emotions at times. It's a cool thing.
Indeed.
For me, I'm sorry, man.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying. For me, like the main thing is, like the games that freak me out the most are like the games that take place kind of in like one location, and you're stuck there. Something about that concept has always freaked me out. Like the first Resident Evil, like the fact that you're just in a house. Like, you know, of course it opens up and stuff, but like just being in a house that's full of like bioweapons and zombies is like scary to me. And like when it opened up to the city, it was like cool, but it wasn't like as scary, you know? Like it was like there's something about being trapped that freaks me out in games. I don't know what it is, but like, you know, playing like PT, like that freaked me out, like because you're just like in one small location, and you're basically just walking back and forth down a hallway. But like, I'm just like, what's gonna happen? Why can't I leave? Oh my god, I don't like this. Like that weirds me out more than anything. Especially like I was talking about with Scissor Man. It's like that one part you keep walking in the same room, like trying to solve puzzles and do all this stuff. You get familiar with what you know, and you're like, okay, I know this location. I know that this is a safe room. You know, I always love Resident Evil because they had the safe room music. I'm like, cool, I'm not going to die in here, but I will as soon as I step out that door. And there's just something about buckling down and like trying to fight through a small location just to escape is really freaky to me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that man, that save music in any Resident Evil, like when that music plays, it really is. It's like such a like breather. Like you went through all that shit, and then you go in there and you start hearing that music, and you're just like, whew, thank God.
That brings up, it's like the same effect as far as like, you know, the scary music,
the
chase music. You get that music, and you just know it's like it's a safe place. And the music corresponds with that. It just gives you that easy feeling. Hang out there for a minute, and then, like Ryan said, you step out the door, and then you fucking die, you know, and that's just how it goes.
A big giant alligator just comes out of nowhere.
Oh, man.
Man,
That would be great.
Probably about 3 years ago, they did a Resident Evil haunted house at Halloween Horror Nights, and it was crazy because they actually had the balls to base it on the games and not the movies. Like, you know, and the movies were hot, you know, and it was like awesome because they had stuff like that. Like there's a part where you walk through the house and there's you hear like the save music, you see typewriters, you see like all these little details like herbs. And it was just funny because I heard so many people walking out of the house and they were like, that's stupid, because they all thought it was based on the movie. And I was, oh my God, that's the coolest thing ever. There was even a part of the house where it was like there was a pause screen and Leon was like fighting like a licker, but it was just like a mannequin fighting like a mannequin, and it just said pause really big, like flashing lights above you. And I was like, oh my God, this is made by a gaming nerd. I love this. I love all those little things. Yeah, it was very cool.
It was so much like that. I always think of like the moth. I'm a huge fan of moths, just in general. I don't really catch them as much anymore and feed them to my cat like I used to, because they became one of my spirit animals. But that was just cool in Resident Evil. I was thinking just like the giant Mothman, the plant. So much stuff. Like, you know, everybody remembers the snake, the spiders, and the dogs, but I think the plant and the moth get a little bit overlooked. And then, you know, we always had that great shark at the end too, which also had really good, you know, kind of Jaws inspired music.
Well, you know the one monster that I could not stand in any Resident Evil, and that is the crows.
Fuck them.
The crows were the worst. I mean, I finally figured out the best way to kill them was just with the knife. It was funny because the knife was completely like just about useless the whole game until you got to the crows, and you're like, oh shit, okay, because I'm not going to waste any more of my ammo trying to kill these things, because like that one puzzle in Resident Evil where you're trying to go through the paintings of like
the paintings of the old man.
yeah, you're trying to go from like the baby to like the old man to death, you know. And, like, you're trying to figure it out. And the whole time, there's, like, these crows coming down trying to peck your eyes out. Like, I hated that. It freaked me out so much.
They were always, like, a tense moment. Like, I lay no claim to being, like, proficient at the remake of Resident Evil. But with the knife, I could kill, like, the HKs with the knife. Back in my heyday when I played Resident Evil 1 a whole lot. Like, I was pretty brutal with it, so I would say the knife is a little bit better, than just for the birds. Though I actually don't think I ever killed the crows with a knife. I think I usually shot them, so it's a good tip to know.
I definitely fought them with a knife. That was the best way I found. And the only time I would use the knife to fight anything else was just because I was out of ammo.
Yeah. Yeah, going into Resident Evil, the remake with that, I mean, one of the best things I loved about it was the Crimson Heads. I love the Crimson Heads so much. I mean,
it's a great concept.
Yeah, I hope they bring that back for the Resident Evil 2 remake.
That would be cool.
I don't. I think I'd do without the Crimson Heads. I don't know. They were just they were hard, man. I don't know, they did really give a new aspect to it. It really brought something new to that game. And that's one I haven't fully played through the remake of 1, because when I'd got the collection last time, I started playing 0, which I had never played till the version on the... I'm trying to think which one I got. The PS4. I got that one because I had it on the GameCube for years, and I never played it. And I was kind of disappointed I didn't, because I actually really enjoyed it. Like, it just, you had the switching between characters, which could be a little annoying at times. But it still had that old Resident Evil feel, and it started on a train, and I got like really obsessed with like horror movies on trains and things on trains for a spell. So the way that one started off was just amazing. But I mean, I think the sequel, I can only imagine what the alligator scene is going to look like when that one finally comes out. I mean, that's just going to be, I think, an amazing game. Is that still set for, is it supposed to be next year when we get that one?
Yeah, it's supposed to be January. We're supposed to be getting the Resident Evil 2 remake. So, And weirdly enough, we'll be getting Resident Evil 2 remake and supposedly Onimusha around the same time, like the HD remaster of Onimusha, which is kind of like a survival samurai horror game. You know, you're fighting samurai demons.
You could throw it in that for sure. And that's a series I'm really glad to see come back. I think we even mentioned that before on a past episode about one that would be really cool to see again, because it was a really great series, and it's another one that's just been dead for a long time. Lots of demons, you get a little bit of Japanese mythology in there, and it was always just a really good one. I was playing I think the first one on the Xbox, the original Xbox, a while back. And it was still, like really fun. So that'll just be a really good one to see come back, And then maybe we'll even get some Dino Crisis too at some point, because everybody loves that one.
That would be awesome. The first one especially. The first one was great.
A remake. Can you imagine a remake of just the first Dino Crisis? Like, how awesome would that be?
Yeah.
I think people would really be into that.
Yeah, like, I was going to say, like, are you guys getting the Castlevania Requiem that comes out I think in about 2 days?
I think I kind of have to. I kind of have a tradition with any time Symphony of the Night is on any system, I'm going to buy it. I might not always play it, but I will buy it and support it. I know there was a little bit of, I heard some things about it being the PSP version, a little bit of controversy with the, of course we love the old cheesy, original voice acting.
I'll say I have a theory with this, okay? Because I know a lot of people were not happy to find out that the voice acting in Symphony of the Night is the PSP port and not the PlayStation. And here's what I think, okay? Because we have... Oh, my little alarm's going off. Jeez. Okay. Sorry about that.
Wake up.
But no, like, here's my theory, okay? Because I think that this Castlevania is going to be kind of a experiment for Konami to see how fans feel about Castlevania. Now, we can all say till we're blue in their face that we want a new Castlevania game because we're all Castlevania fans. We're not the majority of gaming culture. There are a slew of gamers out there who don't follow gaming news, who don't do anything but play video games, and they're a huge majority too of sales and whatnot. And I think the reason why they use this voice acting instead of the PlayStation is because it does sound a lot better than the voice acting of the original Symphony of the Night. As much as I love the cheesy voice acting, especially when Alucard and Maria first meet, and Maria says to Alucard, "What do you hear?" I'm like, that's not even English. That's awesome. New people that are getting into Castlevania, they would probably, because it's already a dated game, they'd be like, "Oh man, the voice acting sucks." So I think that's the reason why they did that, and probably also because of royalties as well. Probably the original actors, they probably didn't want to pay them. That's probably what it is.
Yeah, there's always things mixed up with voices. Like, I think that's always the reason we have never got a Rival Schools.
Yeah.
It has to do with the voice acting. And the one thing, too, that I didn't know is apparently the PSP version has, some extra familiars. And from things I've read, that's actually Iga's preferred version of the game. I think it was just the fact I had it unlocked and I messed with it a little bit on the PSP, but I never fully went through it like I did on the PS1 version. So, kind of knowing that and thinking that that's the version that he likes best and the one he wants people to play kind of makes me, dig it a little bit more.
I never actually played Rondo of Blood, so I'm excited about that.
Hell yeah.
That's really exciting because I played Symphony of the Night on PS1. I haven't played the PSP version. But yeah, Rondo of Blood is a selling point to me.
Dude, Rondo, I first played the version of that. I got it on the Wii shop. And playing that, man, it's just awesome to sit and play. Like one time I played like Castlevania 4. I think I played Dracula X and Rondo of Blood. just kind of all in a row to compare them. And I mean, that version of Rondo of Blood is so good. If you've never played it, like, you're really gonna have a blast with that one.
Nice.
Yeah, my friend Jason, he'd also had never played Rondo of Blood. This is gonna be his first time, and my man, you're in for a treat because to me, it's my favorite stage-based Castlevania. Like, a lot of people regard Super Castlevania 4, which it's good. I like Super Castlevania 4, but Rondo, man, just has a special place in my heart.
Dude, and I think Bloodlines gets a little overlooked.
Yeah.
As good as Castlevania 4 was, it definitely doesn't look as good as some Super NES games did. When I went back and played it, it was kind of like, wow. But when you play Rondo, that, like, looks like a Castlevania of that time should look, but just like super hyped up. And I mean, it's really like I think the epitome of that era of Castlevania games when people finally get a chance to play it if they missed it before. So I mean, like, with the price of those two together, it's worth it alone, I think, just for Symphony. And, so many people have played that and love it. But, like, if you've never played Rondo, like, it's a great time to check it out because it is such a good game.
And
Yeah, I'm excited about it, but I'm a little scared because I honestly really suck at Castlevania.
It's hard as hell, man. You won't get very far, but you'll still love it.
Oh, yeah, it's a great ride. And, I mean, like, dude, this is just a great week for Castlevania because we have the collection coming out on the same day as Season 2 on Netflix. Which
wow.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm going to marathon it Saturday when I get off work.
I got to rewatch the first season.
Yeah, I told my friend Amanda, I'm like, yeah, when I get off work Saturday, we are going to sit back and watch Castlevania Season 2 because that was Season 1 was just phenomenal. It was amazing. So
I loved it. I was so impressed with it. And I was like extra hyped because we were actually going to Transylvania right before it came out, or like right after it came out. So I was like so freaking hyped and excited about it. And I went through this phase where I was like playing every old Castlevania I could get a hold of. But I like I said, the only problem I have with the series is I totally suck at it. Like, I love it. I just suck ass at it.
You're probably better at the games like Symphony and the ones where you can level up. I would imagine,
Symphony,
like me.
Symphony was like doable because you can kind of go at your own pace and kind of explore and the level based ones you got to be good to get through them.
Now, because we're starting to run short on time, I'm going to get into our games we've been playing, and I'll go ahead and go because my list is very short because the only game I've been playing since our last episode is Fist of North Star. And Ryan, you asked me before we recorded, you were like, "How is Fist of North Star?" I'm thinking about getting it. It's great. It's really good. I did do a review on it. On my channel, that's youtube.com/Skullion for you listeners out there. I did a review of it, and I will say one thing, Ryan, before you get into it, is that one thing is it doesn't open up until about Chapter 5. Chapter 5 is when the game really starts getting good. And surprisingly, it's only got 12 chapters. So it's pretty much like once you go halfway through the game, it turns into like it just turns into a much more open experience. But it's very Yakuza. It is very Yakuza, but it's got that Fist of North Star feel to it.
You actually play as Kiryu in it?
Yeah, there was, I don't know if it's a free DLC anymore. It was the first, I think, like 2 weeks the game was out. You could like download a skin, and it would make you turn into Kiryu, because this is the same voice actor. As a matter of fact, a lot of the voice actors from the Yakuza series are doing voices for the Yakuza series, or for Fist of North Star. Like Kiryu's brother, I think his name was like Jogi, or I'm terrible with names tonight, but the voice actor for him was Majima. Like Majima did the voice of Kenshiro's brother, which was pretty cool. And for some of you guys that are listening, they're like, I just don't like reading subtitles and Japanese voice acting. Fist of North Star is also in English as well. So if you want to play in English and just have a totally different experience, you can do that. So that's pretty much with me. What about you? What about you, James?
Well, I've still been dabbling around with the wrestling. I did get the WWE 2K19. I ended up getting it for $10 because I had like a $50 point card from GameStop just from points I'd built up. So I used that, and I mean it's WWE 2K19. I think it's really cool they have the showcase mode back because I always enjoyed those, and the last one didn't have it. The My Career looks really cool. Has a lot of wrestlers, doing their voices. It seems just more fleshed out than in the past. And it's a game you can really do, anything in. But at the end of the day, I still have more fun with Fire Pro. Honestly, that's the wrestling game I've had the most fun with. But then other than that, I'd kind of throw it to, since it is the Halloween season, of kind of what I've been watching. And Halloween's really kind of snuck up on me. It's just, I don't know if it's because it was hot for so long. We had all the, flooding and weather stuff that seemed to, drag into the month. But I did go see the new Halloween movie. And, of course, I won't give any spoilers or anything like that, but I just would say that I really, really liked it. I think it's the best Halloween other than, of course, I loved 1. I like the original 2. Big fan of 3. A lot of people hated 3 back in the day because, of course, no Michael Myers, but nobody cares anymore, and everybody loves 3 now. It's about the masks that, turn the kids' heads into bugs and shit, which is pretty awesome, killing little kids like that. A lot of movies didn't do that back then. So I saw the new Halloween, been watching a lot of Night Gallery, which is Rod Serling's show after the Twilight Zone. They're in color. Some people, don't like black and white shows. Very, a lot of episodes are very creepy. Lots of short story writers contributed to them, and it's a really good series. I think someone works next to my wife at we have like a store called The Hobbit here in Fayetteville, which sells like D&D and swords and Harry Potter and all kinds of crap like that, which is pretty cool. And I think one of the guys there had maybe given her the Night Gallery season 1 and 2. So I've been watching that, and then I want to give a big shout out also to some heavy metal horror movies, because I watched Trick or Treat, not to be confused with Trick or Treat, which is a really good anthology movie with the little sackhead Sam kid. But the original Trick or Treat had Ozzy Osbourne and Gene Simmons. They announced them as the stars of the movie, even though they're in it very briefly. It's mostly Skippy from Family Ties, if any of you all remember that show. But it's mostly about Rock's chosen warrior, Sammy Kerr, and how you can like play records backwards and bring people back from the dead. And there's all kinds of just cool shit going on. I would also throw in Black Roses, about a demonic band coming to town, and everybody turns into demons and zombies. And Rock and Roll Nightmare, with John Michael Thor.
Oh my god!
Yes, a very, very famous and loved heavy metal, some kind of foreign artist. Back in the 80s, he was all buff and muscular. He was like Fabio, but buffer and probably a little less handsome or pretty. But he did a string of movies. But if you really want an awesome, a heavy metal horror trilogy, I would definitely throw out, Trick or Treat, Black Roses, and Rock and Roll Nightmare. Because it is Halloween, you should be watching some horror movies. Like I said, I'm trying. But other than that, that's about the most that I've been up to. So I will just throw it over to Ryan, and because I know he's seen Halloween also.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, first off, new Halloween, I absolutely love it. It's my second favorite Halloween next to the first one. And then 3 would be third. Rock and Roll Nightmare is terrible, but I respect you for mentioning it because it is hilariously terrible and totally watchable. So that one's awesome. Black Roses is hilarious and also awesome. And, yeah, of course, Trick or Treat. Come on. That movie's great. Sammy
Rock's
Kerr.
chosen warrior, Sammy Kerr.
Yeah, Sammy Kerr, man. So as far as what I've been playing, on road trips and stuff, I've been playing Mega Man 11. I've been saving it. Like I will go on a trip and I'll be like, cool, I'm gonna fight one level and one boss, and then put it down. And that's kind of how I've been doing it. I think I have like 2 guys left, so that's been a really, really fun game. Really fun Switch game. And aside from that, I just beat Yakuza 6 and Spider-Man on the PS4. I loved Yakuza 6, obviously. Spider-Man was probably my favorite Spider-Man story ever. Like, that's how much I liked the story of that game. So that I thought that was a breathtaking game. And I think that's it right now. I'm waiting on the My Hero Academia fighting game. I'm actually excited about because I like that show. I
still need to get into that show. I need to actually watch it.
I really, really like it. So I'm eager to see how the game is, and the fiance's into it too. So we're pretty excited about getting that game and fighting each other. And then of course, I'm going to get Red Dead Redemption 2. I mean, I can't even pretend that I'm not going to get it because I just love the first one so much. I know it's super hyped, but I'm still excited about it.
It's rightfully hyped though. I mean, this is something that fans have been wanting for a very long time. And, we all know Rockstar, when they don't put out games often, but when they do, it's good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Sure.
It's not even over put out, and I wouldn't even say GTA is overdone. But Red Dead, I'm coming back from I loved Red Dead Revolver on PS2. I was a huge fan of that. Just the throwbacks. I loved old, spaghetti westerns, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Django. Not the Quentin Tarantino one, but there was an old Western one. With this Franco Nero, the star of Enter the Ninja, if anybody's familiar with that. But he was the original Django. That was where the thing with the guy dragging the coffin with the gun inside. So many throwbacks to old movies. And anytime I play, Red Dead Revolver, Redemption, it always makes me watch. I actually had to fight the urge. I was going to pop in like a Western movie, but I was like, man, it's October. I was like, I had to watch something else. I ended up watching Trick or Treat. I'm sure.
I'll say I got a good Halloween Westerner for you, James. You watch Dracula versus Billy the Kid.
Oh man,
there you go.
I have that on my shelf somewhere. I should. There's one too, actually called Bone Tomahawk with Kurt Russell. I've heard really good things about. It's probably has a little bit more horror tinges to it, but Spaghetti Westerns is another one. Ennio Morricone, another great music artist, did the soundtracks to so many of those. And I mean, Red Dead Revolver 2, I was kind of disappointed because I thought it was coming out tomorrow because I'm off tomorrow, but it's actually not coming out until Friday. And I was trying to take off from work, but other people are already off and we're short of people. So, that's just how it is. But I'm also going to pick that up as well. I never beat Red Dead Redemption. I feel kind of bad. Like I started at one time, I stopped, I restarted, got even further. But this one's kind of like, I don't know, it's a prequel. You're a different guy, so it'll be okay. I'm definitely looking forward to it because that's just one of those series that I think people are going to expect a lot, just because we don't see it as much, and I think it's going to be definitely an amazing game. Probably going to be a game of the year candidate, if not winner, for sure. I mean, there's no way it's going to be bad. I mean, it's going to be an awesome game. So hopefully I'll get off early Friday, and I guess maybe I should reserve it because sometimes when I go to get a game like GameStop, I actually won't even have it if it's a big title. But that one, you think they would? But I might go reserve it just in case.
Indeed. And Ryan, again, I want to thank you for being on the show. Before we do our closeout, how about you give a quick plug for all your social media endeavors for the Casket Creatures for our listeners to check out your music?
Yeah. If you want to check us out, just the Casket Creatures on Facebook is probably the easiest way because that's where we keep up with, our shows and everything. Other than that, if you want us to come to your town, hit us up, let us know where there's a market because we're trying to get out there and, we did a little tour this year and we're trying to get around. So just let us know. And if you haven't heard us before, I suggest checking out our music videos first because they're ridiculous, and hopefully you'll enjoy our
They're very awesome. Up there with Thriller. Not quite as good as Thriller because that's one of the greatest videos of all time. But if you like Thriller, I would highly suggest all of the Casket Creatures videos because I love them very much.
Yeah, the music videos are really good because they're kind of like how Yakuza is. It's kind of whimsical and quirky, and you guys are not afraid to make fun of yourselves. And the shows themselves, I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen you guys play, but the pictures, it always seems very theatrical. It's not, Ryan's just not going to stand there and sing to you guys. He's going to be, moving around, and there's stuff that always happens at their shows. So, speaking of that, tomorrow you're playing a show. Where's that show going to be at again?
All right, so we have Claremont Lounge on the 25th in Atlanta, Georgia, and then we're playing the Auditorium in Asheville on Friday. And that's in Asheville, North Carolina. So yeah, that's all I got.
Awesome again, man. Thank you so much for again coming on the show and making Halloween what it is on Xsgaming, because like I said, it's not Halloween unless we get Ryan Cadaver as a guest. It's just the way it is. So anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this, be sure to check us out on more episodes on iTunes, also Podomatic.com, and also YouTube.com/Xander Skullion, where not only will you be getting the Xsgaming podcast, but you'll also be getting videos as well. I do have a review I'm working on. I got the SNK anniversary collection on the Nintendo Switch. I got that yesterday from NIS, so I'm going to be playing that tomorrow and be doing a review of that before the 6th of November, because that's when the embargo's lifted, so I can do the review on there. And also, I have a discussion video coming out very soon. It should be a lot of fun. But anyway, guys, as always, thank you for listening. Have a happy Halloween, and as always, happy gaming.
Have a pleasant Halloween, everybody.